and welcome to The Album Man, and today we're going to be taking a look, continuing the Beatles discography with Magical Mystery Tour. Now this album came 6 months after they released the monolithic Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So how did the Beatles follow up its success? Well, with an EP sort of compilation that is part the soundtrack to a bizarre film of the same name and part compilation of singles from 1967. Now in regards to the film, I haven't seen the entire film. I've seen clips from the film, and by what I've seen it seems to be very odd. Very odd and very 60s, very psychedelic, very trippy, very drug-induced. But still, onto the album, I definitely count this as a studio record and as a canon Beatles album, as it features only songs that were not released on any other studio album. And yes, as I said, Side B was singles that had previously been released as singles, but still they weren't available on any other studio album. We'll also be taking a look at the full version, not the UK EP version. That was a lot shorter version. So the question is, does this live up to Sgt. Pepper's legacy? Is this the follow-up it deserved? Or is this in the previous style of their soundtracks like Help and A Hard Day's Night, not some of their strongest material? Well, when you open up with a track like Magical Mystery Tour, which should have been a single without a doubt, then you know this is going to be a good follow-up to Sgt. Pepper. This mainly McCartney song is very much in the acid style of Sgt. Pepper, with many more explicit drug references than we even got in that album, with the constant refrain of roll up clearly also referring to a joint being rolled up, and in fact the whole bloody idea of a magical mystery tour waiting to take you away has to be a reference to drug use without a doubt, and it provides the perfect soundtrack to it. Honestly, this song just does brilliantly the whole drug-induced trip theme, and this is one of the most thoroughly enjoyable Beatles songs across their entire catalogue, I would honestly argue. I mean, this is just what I absolutely adore about the Beatles. It combines the catchy, poppy Beatles with experimental instrumentation, with brass instruments used as this whole sort of almost circus-like fanfare is created. I mean, there's just so much going on with the Lennon double-tracked roll-up and McCartney singing some lines over the top of that. You have this bass-driven bridge in the middle before rhythmic change from Ringo as the song speeds up and then slows down, with the tempo style just ever changing to the outro, which seems to come out of nowhere. This very jazzy piano, and it's like, what the hell is going on? This almost is like complex progressive rock music, but in less than 3 minutes and catchy as hell. This is why the Beatles are king. Fall on a Hill is another Paul song, and it's very different to its predecessor, as this is more of a piano-driven song and a gentler ballad, though it's still certainly weird in parts. The main verse and chorus is beautifully sung by Paul, one of the strongest vocal performances on the album, as he sings this in a heartfelt way and just hits each note so perfectly. We then have an accompanying flute throughout, but it's really the instrumental section where things get odd. I mean, there are multiple penny whistle solos. Penny whistle solos, playing the main melody, which is unexpected to say the least. Though again, it shows the experimental nature of the Beatles, and that's really what I love so much about this period. This is why this mid-period is my favourite. Though I may argue that they go a little overboard in experimentation on the next effort. Though, focusing on this, really, I just love the way they're not going to settle for ordinary rock structure, ordinary instrumentation. No, they want to subvert the audience's expectations and throw them off with a strange musical change here and one here, and what's not to enjoy about this song. Though the question could be asked about what is to enjoy about Flying. This is one of the few songs that's credited to all of the Beatles, and one that only instrumental tracks, and it's certainly, again, odd. I mean, I've said odd a lot, or bizarre, or various synonyms for that. This is just really bizarre. This has Lennon on mellotron directing the melody, this sort of solid beat from Ringo on drums and maracas, and almost a slight jazzy feel rhythmically, I could say, and this wordless melody in the background sung by all 4 of them before it descends into feedback and tape loops, and this sounds more like something you'd expect from Robert Fripp than you would from the Beatles, but it's here, and I honestly don't know whether I like it or not. I mean, it's very short, it's inoffensive, but it's not all that good. It's not bad, it's just not good. I don't really know if I like this one. I'm not sure. Blue Jay Way, this is the obligatory Harrison song. And I found this to be one of the darker Beatles songs on the album, and one of the darker Beatles songs overall, as the atmosphere Harrison creates I found quite sinister and almost disturbing in parts. It just has this constant drone to it, the flanging organ sound, and also what sounds like backwards instruments and tapes, and maybe even some backwards cymbals and weird crap again. And Harrison's voice sort of takes on this dark, dull drone throughout the song, which then ends with a cello malfunctioning on the tape, and honestly, it just leaves me thinking, how strong were Harrison's drugs? Though Your Mother Knows is a bit more straightforward. This is probably the most normal, straightforward track on the whole first side of this psychedelic mystery tour with Lucy high in the sky with a Cannabis Factory. This seems to be more of a Paul song, who at this point I really feel has become the dominant creative force behind the band. I certainly it could be argued. And of course that's one of the reasons Lennon gave to why the Beatles dissolved in 1970, was because Lennon felt like he was a hired hand in Paul's band. Though, going back to this song, this features a prominent use of the organ, as well as being led by the piano. The vocal melodies are softly sung, mainly by Paul, with the backing vocals almost having a Brian Wilson feel reduction-wise to them. And I have to remark at this point about the less prominent use of guitar throughout the album, honestly, particularly with the tracks on side A written for the film. It just seems to be more in the background than it is on other Beatles records, with Harrison just, as I said, lower in the mix, with the exception of Blue Jay Way. It's a little bit of an odd change, but still, I like this song quite a bit. Even though it's more stripped back, I find it refreshing on the album, and it's a little taste of normality before the best track on the album. I Am the Walrus, which just throws conventionality and normality out of the window. This is, in my opinion, one of the greatest songs the Beatles wrote. This is Lennon at his trippiest, at his most creative, in my opinion, as he creates one of the wackiest songs in their catalogue. And that's saying something on this freaking album, with barely one lyric making coherent sense, especially as he sings that famous choral refrain, I am the walrus, I am the Eggman, I am the Eggman, goo 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 tube. I don't know what the hell that means. I think the walrus is a reference to Lewis Carroll, though. And, I mean, lyrically this does seem to have a childish nursery rhyme feel to it, but then almost mix of this sort of adult theme. I mean, we get lyrics like, crab a locker fishwife, pornographic priestess, boy, you've been a naughty gal, you let your knickers down. And it's like, I don't know what's going on. Though this song also has a heaviness to it, and the ascending chord progression at the end is almost quite dark in tone. And it's certainly odd at the end, the portion from radio adaptation of Shakespeare's King Lear, because that's just something you think to add to the song. What do I need to the end of the song? Yeah, I need a portion of King Lear. Okay, whatever, Lennon. And his voice on this seems to have an almost distorted tone to it throughout, which really adds to the feel. And really, though, it's the orchestra and choir that thicken this sound and just round off what is a very catchy, memorable and fun as hell track. Though opening side 2, things get a little simpler, a little less bizarre than side A. Hello Goodbye is the opener of what consists of singles from around 1967, so before and I think maybe after Sgt. Pepper. And these are certainly some brilliant songs, and these tracks tended to focus more on the original theme of Sgt. Pepper, which was going to be childhood, in particular with Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields Forever, as well, both Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields aren't real places in and around Liverpool and the area they grew up. Though back to Hello Goodbye, this is more traditional, insanely poppy Beatles, the simplistic lyrics which are simply opposites to each other. I say black, you say white, that type of thing. And this song is a very well put together pop song. There's not much more to say, except how this highlights George Martin as a producer, as sonically, this song is genius, with the big echoes on the toms towards the end and the reverb vocals and the bridge. Again, another masterclass in production and also engineering from Jeff Emmerich, I think. Though that Hebba Hello bit is a bit odd, that sort of just changes the song completely. So the two childhood tracks, as I said before, Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. With Strawberry Fields, Lennon takes as a one another of his dreamlike soundscapes focused on childhood nostalgia. Again, we see more of a focus on the mellotron, which is played by Paul leading the song, and provides this centre melody. Though what is so captivating is how the layers of instrumentation are added and peeled away throughout the song. I mean, we have them added and added before they're peeled back and we're left with just brass and the swarmandal, which is an Indian instrument, which I definitely prefer to the sitar and tambura. Definitely on this track it's used very tastefully and sparingly. And Lennon's vocals and vocal melodies really are the highlight of the song. He truly takes you away, and it's just such a great one to chill to. But then Penny Lane, released as a single along with Strawberry Fields before the Sgt. Pepper album, just has this particularly outstanding piccolo trumpet solo, which plays at a far higher pitch and gets far higher notes than you would ever imagine a piccolo capable of, and was actually thought was capable of at the time. David Mason, in one take, really nailed this so perfectly. And the main melody of the song is built quite simplistically and played predominantly on piano, as many of the songs of this era are. And again, the guitar seems a little less utilised, but still, those vocal melodies, those catchy chorus, it's an undoubted classic. Baby, You're a Rich Man is a song I have fond memories of. This was on the Yellow Submarine song track, which as a kid I used to listen to an awful lot. Though what I never did like too much, and what I'm still not a big fan of, is the instrument which sounds like a dying cat, which was created by an early synthesizer to sound a bit like a steroid-fueled oboe. I don't know what's going on there. Compositionally, this song is interesting. It's similar almost to A Day in the Life, as it combines two distinct parts, one from Paul and one from Lennon, with the chorus being Paul's and the verse being John's. And this song, I always found it quite upbeat, quite vibrant, and the rhythm was always sung from Ringo I enjoyed particularly. But the final track on the album is honestly possibly one of the worst. All You Need Is Love. This was commissioned by the BBC for the first ever live global TV event, Our World, and honestly, it's a Beatles track I really dislike. I find it instrumentally far duller than a lot of the other songs in this period. I find the lyrics lack that whimsical ambiguity, and aside from the guitar line from George, I just don't find much to like about it. Though I think a lot of my reasons for liking it are probably down to the fact that in primary school we were doing a 60s fashion show, and as a result for about 2 months this song was played like basically a million times a day as it was in the soundtrack, and I just got bloody sick of it, if I'm going to be honest. So sick of it. And yeah, these reasons are super subjective, but what bloody music critique isn't? And also I find this refrain a little repetitive. It seemingly never ends. All you need is love, da 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 da. Oh, it goes on forever. I'd rather listen to the bloody infinite loop at the end of Sgt. Pepper than would that refrain. Still, I believe this album to be one of the most underrated and one of the best in the Beatles catalogue, and this previously was my favourite Beatles album, though it has been superseded by Sgt. Pepper, Revolver and my favourite, which we haven't covered quite yet. So I'm going to give this album an 8.5 out of 10. When it's strong, it is utterly incredible. But songs like Flying, which is wholly unnecessary, Blue Jay Way, which carries on Harrison's inconsistent streak, and All You Need Is Love, which I personally dislike, detract from the album slightly. Still, this is a classic late 60s psychedelic record, and something that if you don't know, you really have to check out. This has been The Album Man. Thanks for watching, comment, rate, subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.